Somalia Hanulato! Somalia Hanulato!
Somalia. Somalia. Hiran State. Mawisle. Mawisle.
الهان 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 الهان
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. آدي آد aan ugu faraxsanahay caawa in xafladan oo dhammaan dadka iskugu wada yimideen aadi aadaan ugu faraxsanahay in maxaa la dhahaa ii sheeg Omar Fateh aan u taageero inuu noo noqdo duqa magaalada Minneapolis.
Several days later.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey wins re-election despite concerns that a more radical left-wing challenger could have unseated him. When America's Nathaniel Manor has more.
Despite a bad election night for Republicans across the country, at least one race pushed back against radical leftism. On Wednesday, incumbent Democrat Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey won a third term and defeated far-left challenger Omar Fateh, dubbed the Minneapolis Mamdani by the New York Post. Frey came in first place during the first round of tabulation, winning 41.8% of the vote compared to Fateh's 31.7%. Frey emerged as the winner with 50.03%, while Fateh only garnered 44.37% support in the third round. The incumbent addressed his supporters, saying Minneapolis will make a comeback under his leadership.
Because Minneapolis is coming back. We have gone through the most difficult of moments. We have come through adversity together. We have tackled the most difficult of circumstances. We've done it hand in hand, facing the world.
Boy. So we got to talk about some good news, I guess, when it comes to the outcome of yesterday's elections. We got to go out to Minneapolis because we had another socialist running for mayor of a major city, a major liberal city. And that was Omar Fateh, okay, against Jacob Frey. Now, Omar Fateh is a Somali radical socialist who ran on free stuff, just like Zohran Mamdani, and white people are the real terrorists in this country.
We heard them being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security. And that's a flat-out lie. You want to know who the real threat is, Madam President? I'll give you a hint. They don't look like our chief author. They don't look like the folks up in the gallery. They don't look like the folks out in the rotunda. They look like many of the members that sit in the front. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race, not our immigrants. We are safer and we're better off because of them.
Yeah, so unlike Zohran Mamdani, this guy did not win his race, despite the fact that the race was essentially rigged in favor of radical socialists due to the fact that it used ranked choice voting, okay, which is the voting system that enabled Zohran Mamdani to beat Andrew Cuomo in the Democrat primary in New York City, okay? And I personally think that this is probably one of the more important races that we have to talk about, because what it means is that these socialists are going to have a hard time winning in cities that, again, are not radically far left like New York City. And Minneapolis, I mean, let's be real, it's a pretty liberal city. Again, this was the birthplace of George Floyd. And for a radical socialist to lose, okay, to a Democrat that is still pretty far left, but, you know, definitely more towards the center than Omar Fateh, is a bad sign for Democrats who are currently looking to lean into far-left socialism. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Jacob Frey's main challenger, State Senator Omar Fateh, had hoped ranked choice voting would put him over the top, but he faced a major gap after last night's first tabulation, one that he just couldn't surmount. So Fox 9's Rob Olson is live in Minneapolis tonight with Fateh's reaction to his loss and what his campaign achieved. Rob, what did he have to say today? I'm sure disappointed in the turnout, but also maybe very proud about how far they went.
Yeah, Yeah, proud of some of the things that they introduced in this campaign that they felt were, certainly minor successes here, if not major successes. He mounted a serious challenge to Mayor Jacob Frey. You'll recall this past summer actually getting the Minneapolis DFL endorsement before the Frey campaign challenged it over procedural issues, and the Minnesota DFL then took that endorsement away. But we'll show you some of Fateh here on the campaign trail and from last night, too. I mean, after last night's first round, he was a pretty big gap. He was about 15,000 votes shy of Mayor Jacob Frey after that first tabulation, but they had really hoped that a kind of a concerted effort among some of the other competitors to make sure that Frey wouldn't get any second choice votes, that might all go to Omar Fateh, but they did not. After that second round, the final round tabulated today, he shortened that gap a little bit, but was still 8,000 votes shy of Mayor Jacob Frey. And just minutes after that final vote was tabulated, he posted a thanks on social media. We could show you that here on Facebook, saying, "While this was not the outcome we wanted, I am incredibly grateful to every single person who supported our grassroots campaign. I'll keep fighting alongside you to build the city that we deserve." A longer statement then came a few minutes later from his campaign, quoting Omar Fateh again, saying thank you to every single person who believed in this scrappy campaign, who believed in a vision for Minneapolis that was more affordable, that was more accountable, who showed up and worked and refused to give up on this city. Continuing on, he said, while they may have won this race, we have changed the narrative about what kind of city Minneapolis can be, because now truly affordable housing, workers' rights, and public safety rooted in care are no longer side conversations. They are the center of the narrative. And again, that's...
So the irony here is that this guy is pretending as if he actually had a real solution to affordability. Again, he just copied Zohran Mamdani. All of these socialist candidates, they're copy and paste. They're all going to run on the same stuff. They're going to create the same type of ads, because ultimately at the end of the day, they don't have any original ideas. Okay, if these people actually were economically literate, they wouldn't be socialists. But because they're economically illiterate, and again, they're socialists, and they're just copying the other socialists, they push these policies that do nothing for affordability, right? Again, like, for example, rent stabilization, which does not lower the cost of housing. And the reason why is because when you stabilize rent for some houses, that reduces the overall supply of housing. And when people are staying in these rent stabilized units, they're not leaving. That means that new people who come into the city looking for a place to live, there's less housing, because nobody builds more housing when you're forced to have low profits, right? When you cannot make money off of rent stabilized units, developers build less. And because they build less, what happens is that drives up the cost of housing for the units that are not rent stabilized, okay? Because again, when new people come into town and they're looking for a place to stay, and you have all these rent stabilized units that people don't want to move out of, that forces them into units that are not rent stabilized. And because of that extra demand, that drives up the price, okay? And the supply is low for affordable housing due to the fact that you can't make any money off of building affordable housing. That is what happens with rent stabilization, and that's why it doesn't work. It usually drives up prices overall for housing that is not rent stabilized, okay? And again, the irony here is that Omar Fateh was pushing rent stabilization as the solution to affordable housing, when the actual solution is already being implemented in Minneapolis. And the actual solution, lo and behold, surprise, surprise, supply side economics, deregulation, getting rid of some of these zoning restrictions. And guess what? Developers build houses when you deregulate and you incentivize developers to build.
This block in Northeast Minneapolis, there are all types of houses. A yellow one, a white one, a brown one. But it's the blue one that's shaking up the neighborhood. Cody Fisher is the developer behind it.
Yeah, this is Solstice Northeast, 23-unit, 4-story building, ultra energy efficient, solar powered, all electric.
Let's go check it out.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's got a few bells and whistles. Bike racks, dog wash station.
We have 23 units, 22 of them are occupied.
But it's the building's location that makes this apartment complex so unique, because it sits on the lot that was formerly a single-family home.
So this building could not have existed in this neighborhood on this plot 7 years ago?
Absolutely not. It was a combination of zoning and parking requirements. It just wouldn't have been possible.
Possible because of a plan known as Minneapolis 2040. In addition to investing $360 million into affordable rental housing since 2018, Mayor Jacob Frey in the city also sought to change the rules, literally.
We also wanted to expand the supply generally. That meant sometimes putting up additional density on commercial corridors. Sometimes that meant making a single-family home a duplex or a triplex.
When the city passed the plan, Minneapolis became the first major city in the U.S. to eliminate single-family exclusive zoning. Since implemented, rents across the country have skyrocketed, according to apartment list data, up 22% nationally. But here in Minneapolis, rents actually fell by 4%, as the city added more than 10% in new housing units.
You build more dense, you can build more cheaply, that is more affordably, and it allows easier access, more affordable access for people who are interested in buying homes.
Yeah, so of course the NIMBY liberals don't like this, right? They don't like affordable housing, so they're against that. But again, the whole point of me showing that is that the solution, okay, is supply side economics. It's incentivizing companies to increase the supply of housing through lowering costs, rolling back regulations, and allowing companies to actually build, right, in ways in which they can make profit. And when they can make profit, okay, then that incentivizes more supply, okay? That incentivizes them to build more, to provide more housing. More supply means that overall rent prices are going to go down. That's what happened in Minneapolis. This is basic stuff. It really is. This is not hard, okay? But apparently for a liberal or for a socialist, this is hard stuff, okay? So I just want people to understand that. When people talk about affordability in this country, supply side stimulus, supply side economics, deregulation, tax cuts, capitalism, okay? Like actual capitalism, getting the government out of the way, right? The government say, hey, we're going to get out of the way and we're going to let builders build. We're going to let the free market work. That's what drives down prices, okay? It works. It can work in healthcare. It can work in education. It can work when it comes to food, groceries. It can work for a lot of things in this country. The problem is that we have too much government, okay? When you have government getting involved, when you have government over-regulating, okay, that distorts the market. That drives up prices overall for consumers. That's what people got to understand. That's what people got to understand.
What they're kind of pointing to in that is to the sort of the victories of their campaign, even though they lost the race, feeling that they introduced some of these things even more to the forefront than what they were. Repeated requests today for on-camera reaction. Well, we did not get any response to that. And it's unclear what his future plans may be, electorally speaking, if he'll try to run again. But he does have another year remaining in his state Senate term. Back to you.
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch and see what those future plans are. Rob Olson reporting live tonight in Minneapolis. And the final Minneapolis City Council race was called.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, so the socialist Somali mayor candidate lost. And again, the reason why this is a big deal is because Democrats are embracing socialism, right? They're going whole hog on this idea that they can win with far left socialism. Okay, and the Minneapolis race, I think, in my opinion, is a sign that, no, hold on now, slow your roll. Maybe you can't win with this nationwide. You might be able to win in a city like New York. You might be able to win in a place like California. Minneapolis, liberal city, but they ain't that liberal, right? Apparently, they're not liberal enough. They're not far left enough for Omar Fateh, which, again, in my opinion, supports my thesis that this is not something that appeals to people across the country, right? It's not going to appeal to people across the country. And again, Democrats are going all in on this.
What Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said about Mayor-elect Mamdani and his race.
He had to not just defeat a Republican, he had to defeat a Republican and the old guard of the Democratic Party at the same time. The Democratic Party cannot last much longer by denying the future, by trying to undercut our young, by trying to undercut a next generation.
So there is a divide there, and I guess the question to you, Mr. Leader, is are you part of the old guard or the future that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez talks about her and Mayor-elect Mamdani?
Well, ultimately, I think that's a question, Brent, that the people that I represent are going to have to decide. In the House, as you know, we have a 2-year employment contract. And every 2 years, we have to go back to the voters and make our case as to whether we are continuing to deliver for the American people, the people that we're privileged to represent, in ways that improve their quality of life. That's what Democrats are all about at this moment, House Democrats in particular. We recognize that America deserves better than where things are at right now. That we need to drive down the high cost of living, we need to fix our broken healthcare system, and we also need to clean up corruption across the board, in Congress, at the Supreme Court, and of course as it relates to this administration.
So this is what far left Democrats are demanding of their leaders, right? They're demanding that, hey, you either get on board with socialism or you're going to get primary. And these Democrats are winning these primaries, okay? At least in these deep blue areas. And who knows? They'll probably win primaries in other places across the country. The freaks and the lunatics are emboldened, okay? And videos like this are exactly what I'm talking about. We have a bunch of freaks and lunatics, low testosterone men who are emboldened. They think they won the Super Bowl because they have a communist as a mayor of New York City now.
He's almost at 50%. Almost at 50%. Almost at 50%. Hassan Pike in the building. Hassan Pike is in the building. Hassan's been ducking me. I want a weightlifting contest. You're ducking me.
Oh, really? You're gonna call it out like that? Really? That's crazy.
Hey,
that's crazy.
It was like he won't condemn Hassan Piker. Remember that shit? Yeah. He won't condemn Hassan Piker. He brought it up twice.
How do you feel about a socialist mayor of New York?
I feel electric. I feel amazing. I feel like being uncompromising in your values, whether it be about touching that third rail of speaking out against Israel or primarily focusing on affordability in your campaign strategy turns out very effective. It's something that I know you know. It's something that I have spoken to every fucking Democrat about. Can I curse on something? I'm sorry. It's something that I fucking talked about. Every Democrat that's like, oh, why do we keep losing? I'm like, this is why. And now I can just point to Zoran and say, hey, he did it, and he won.
That's
against all odds.
You know what they called it during the Cold War? The threat of a good example.
Yes.
Right? They don't want him to succeed. Jamal, how worried are you that they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him now?
I'm always worried about Zoran because they've been throwing everything at him already. That's why we got to be there for him, surround him, uplift him, pray for him.
You're going to be in the administration?
Oh, I have no idea.
He's gonna start cracking skulls. Jamal, you are so big.
Yeah, so my point is, let these people think this, right? Let them celebrate. Let them be happy that the little socialist won. But socialists don't have anything for affordability. They're not going to make your life more affordable. They're going to make your life more expensive because ultimately they're going to distort the market. They're going to drive up costs. They're going to make inflation worse. They're going to limit the supply of essential goods and services. They're going to allow out-of-control crime, which is going to drive businesses away. They're going to raise taxes. This is what they're going to do. These people don't have solutions. They have talking points. They have platitudes. Free stuff. Free this, free that, free that. Nothing in this life is free. Any politician telling you something is free is a con artist by definition. Nothing is free. Everything costs. And these people running around, these economically illiterate people running around, pretending as if, again, they can make your life more affordable. It's a trick. It's a trick. What is driving up costs in this country is too much socialism. Okay? Too much money printing, too much government spending, too many regulations, too much government distorting the market. And you're only going to get more of that with these socialists. So again, they can kiki and ha-ha, but Mandami has to actually govern. He actually has to perform and to execute on these promises of quote-unquote affordability. Now, they'll turn around and blame Trump. They'll say, well, it's Trump's fault, right? If Trump decides to withhold funds from New York City, they'll say, well, it's Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's on Mandami. He has to take responsibility. I don't think that he can succeed. I do not believe that socialism is going to make the lives of these workers, of these people better. But ultimately, they're going to have to learn that on their own. They're going to have to learn it the hard way. And that's why you got to give them what they want. Give them what they want. Let their socialist experiment play out. Give them what they want. They're probably going to go out to Hochul because Hochul's saying that she's not going to raise taxes. So now they're going to try to go out to Hochul. They're going to try to get rid of her. But just give them what they want. Let them have it. Let's see if it works. It didn't work in Chicago. Brandon Johnson tried to look at his approval rating. Below 10%, single digits. But Omar Fateh losing in Minneapolis should be a major warning sign for these Democrats. Zoran Mondani beat Andrew Cuomo, the worst Democrat that you can think of, right? The most corrupt Democrat, a terrible candidate. Yeah, Zoran beat that guy with barely 50% of the vote. But Jacob Frey, who's also a woke lunatic, let's not get it twisted here. Jacob Frey, pretty far left, but again, not in the territory of Zoran Mondani and Omar Fateh. Jacob Frey is probably more like Justin Trudeau, right? He's like a clone of Justin Trudeau. Yeah, the far left socialists lost to that guy, okay? In a liberal city, in a pretty blue city, and lost pretty badly, right? So again, if I was Democrats, I would actually be looking at that and saying, hey, hold on, we need to slow our roll. We don't need to get on board with this, but it's too late, right? It's too late because they've already took the mask off. They've already took it off and say, hey, we're socialists. We're the party of socialists and socialism. So we're going to see how it works out. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.